Alright, I played the Adventures of Elliot debut demo, and I'm gonna get the elephant out of the way first. Yes, the footage is probably 30 FPS. Yes, the game ran silky smooth when I played it. It's because my capture card is probably older than half of you, so quit your belly aching. It's the best I've got currently. Now then, what are my thoughts on the Adventures of Elliot? Overall, I'm pretty satisfied with this debut demo. There's not really a lot of story going on, just that there's beast tribes that occupy most of the world, and humanity seems to be tethered to the Kingdom of Huther as a safe haven. The demo has the King of Huther send Elliot off to investigate some magical ruins that were discovered, and that's it. You just go. Have an adventure, kid. The minimal voice acting we get at the start is serviceable. Outside of Elliot and Faye, the lines I heard are pretty milquetoast in terms of delivery, nothing super exceptional. Maybe there'll be better parts in the full game. We'll see. As for Elliot and Faye, they definitely have their own weights of liveliness to them. They're fun to listen to and hear interact. I was worried Faye might have come down with a case of Paimon-itis, but she's actually pretty good as high-pitched fairy companions come. She's not really annoying, just kind of encouraging and useful for a change, which we will get to later. I've heard some rumors about Faye not being visible to other people, only Elliot being able to see her. I don't really know anything about that. I didn't notice anything in particular, so I'm just gonna let that comment pass us by. I guess the main thing I can talk about is gameplay, because it's so much more dense to discuss compared to when I talk about Bravely or Octopath, because most of you already know how those games play. But there's a lot there to unpack, so very quickly, before we get into that then, I think the visuals are very nice, HD2D knocking out of the park as always, and the music is fine, nothing particularly stand out so far, and I actually found it a tad quiet. You know, usually I complain that the music is too loud or the voice lines aren't loud enough, but this time all the volume options were maxed out and the music felt a little deafened. Some adjusting would be nice. Now, for the actual game. It's fun. I enjoyed myself pretty dearly for the 2.5 to 3 hours I spent playing it. First thing to take note of, this is a dense debut demo. You've got the hometown to explore, like 2 or 3 regions, 2 full dungeons, at least 3 shrine mini-dungeons, and a bunch of other secret caves. Like, the exploration aspect has been cranked to 11 with this game, and I really like it. I was getting a lot of Zelda vibes from playing through this, which I'm totally qualified to say after having only played 2 of the DS entries. But it really did elicit those same feelings. Combat feels fantastic, which was the biggest hurdle they needed to pass for me. If the hits didn't feel right, weren't satisfying to land, then this game was doomed. But that is not the case. The sword swipes and finishers feel and sound amazing, delivering a little dose of dopamine every time you finish an enemy off. Now, they did bring back Bravely's chain farming system in an interesting way. As long as you keep defeating enemies without taking a single hit, you will rack up a chain, and as the chain gets higher, you will get a loot drop bonus. I think I got to somewhere around 20 to 30 kills and only had 2 stars, so you can probably go much higher. I'm just not super acquainted with these types of games. There's also a guard, which you can use to stop attacks, or stun an enemy if properly timed. I was also pretty bad with this, but I like it. There are 4 weapons in total to use. You start with the sword and bombs, again, that's where I kept thinking Zelda, but also have the bow and arrow, and later you can unlock the chain and sickle, which is what I desperately wanted to use. But in order to get it, you have to clear the optional full-length dungeon, the Desert Caves. This was a good test to finally see how much of the game's systems I understood, culminating in a pretty fun boss fight against the Ratamobile. I didn't really touch the bow, used the bomb sparingly, but the sword felt pretty decent. And the sickle? I love the chain and sickle. You can tap the button to do a single wide swing around you, or you can hold it to swing multiple times closer to you, and then once it's charged up, you throw it straight outwards for big damage, and you get to hook the enemy in towards you. Me happy. So, not only does the chain and sickle act like a ketamine drip directly into my brain, but that's when I learned what Magicite was. And that's where the balance went right out the window. For those of you in the audience that have played Elden Ring Night Rain, firstly, I'm sitting on a bunch of footage from that game. Do you want to see me review it or something? And secondly, the Magicite system is exactly the same as the Stone and Goblet system of Night Rain. You go to this Magic Man shop in town, choose the weapon you want to gain Magicite for, and then it's gambling time! You can roll 1 Magicite or 10 Magicite at a time by spending Magicite fragments, and then they all come tumbling out of the little cat glass holder. Any Magicite you already own gets crushed back down into fragments, but any new and unique ones you keep. Each Magicite gives you some kind of boost and takes up X capacity inside a jewelry box in your inventory. Which, can I say, there's absolutely more room in this box for gems. What are you doing, Elliot? I also love how haphazardly they're tossed in. It's hilarious. There are also accessories that give you other bonuses, but I wasn't too worried about them. As of this demo, you have a capacity of 25, and each Magicite costs a certain amount to be used. The devs were even kind enough to give us loadout slots for Magicite containers. Yes! Thank you! But what kind of buffs can you get? Well, these range from get +3 attack on your sword to every 0.2 seconds of spinning your sickle, just throw a random fireball out in some direction. So you can guess what happened next. I dumped all my fragments into the sickle, dropped as many Magicites in my box that I could, and yep, this game rules. Now before I bring up the last 2 dungeons I did, I want to touch on Faye. So, Faye's your companion, but she doesn't just sit around and yap in your ear. She has abilities that can help Elliot out, auto-attacks enemies, picks up loot, just generally useful stuff. Now the arrow buttons up, right, and down each control her in a different way. Stay or follow, hide and come out, go ahead or come back. Not the most useful while I was playing, mostly because I just guided her around with the right stick. Now her abilities, those were much more useful. Sprint has Faye pick Elliot up and just go cruising right down Main Street. Very fun. But eventually, they gave me a pop-up teaching me about warp, which brings Elliot to wherever Faye is so you can cross large gaps. And I had no clue how to do it. After about 5 minutes of looking, I discovered that you have to actively go into your menu and swap Faye's abilities there. And this was probably my biggest gripe of the whole demo. This felt pretty clunky, considering that you still have the left arrow button that could be used to swap her abilities, but instead just gives you reminder text of the other 3 arrow buttons. Just give me a small pop-up window on the side with each of Faye's ability icons and let me select one that way, like Bravely's pop-up menu in the world map screen. Having to go into the inventory every time was a little annoying. But otherwise, the Faye abilities are fun, and I think the co-op for this game is going to be a good time. Now, I mentioned there were 2 main dungeons, the Desert Caves and then the one you're meant to check out for the objective. Can't remember the name, something Flower Swamp. Well, there are also these Shrines of Life scattered around. Once more, feels very Zelda lifted. If you complete the gauntlet inside, you're awarded a new health container. I only found one, the Sprint Challenge from the trailer, but a friend of mine was playing the demo as well, and he found 3 of these shrines. The final dungeon is situated in a swamp that looks like this, and the moment I laid my Dark Souls experienced eyes upon it, I just had to step back for a moment and pull an ISHO speed face. Thankfully, this was not a poison swamp, as far as I could tell. And the following dungeon, I kind of sped through and got to the boss. Speaking of Dark Souls real quick, there's one more item type I want to talk about because I think they're pretty cool. Potions. So when you buy potions in this game, you aren't purchasing a potion bottle. Instead, you're asking for a refill of one of your potion vials. It's like an Estus flask type situation in my brain. You earn or buy new vials over the course of the game, and then you can fill them with different kinds of potions. Healing, damage up, or defense were the options I had. Very cool. The final dungeon had some neat puzzles, but overall had a pretty straightforward path to the boss. The Lord of the Maw was also pretty cool, though I couldn't figure out for the life of me, or Elliot, how to dodge the tidal wave, and I had to revive him twice with Magicite fragments. Good challenge though. Boss fights get 5 stars from me so far. And then after you clear the last boss, you find one of those timey-wimey doorways from the trailer, you enter it, and get some funky visuals, and that's the end of the demo. Overall, I had a good time playing, looking forward to playing more provided they do another demo, and odds are higher that I'll pick this one up on release. Yeah, that's about it. I'll see you soon.